Okay, so thank you so much for joining me this morning. We are here to talk about using Microsoft Academic in EPPI-Reviewer Web. This is quite an introductory webinar, and I know most of you may have attended the other couple of webinars that I've held in June and July as well, looking at introducing EPPI-Reviewer Web and looking at using EPIMapper to create evidence gap maps. So hopefully this will flow on nicely from those. I always begin with an introduction to who I am, just so that you know who's giving the presentation. So most of you know that I used to be a high school teacher in South Australia for 10 years, that I worked at the University of Oldenburg, where I did my PhD. I was there for 3 years prior to moving to England in early 2020, where I took up my position as an EPI Reviewer Support Officer at UCL. So my background in terms of reviewing is in education, because that's my background. I really like researching and investigating educational technology and how educational technology affects and impacts student engagement. And I've been undertaking quite a few studies recently looking at teaching and learning during the COVID-19 pandemic, and looking at how EPI-Reviewer and the tools that we have through EPI-Reviewer can help to visualize the results and help people get access to the research that's been happening as well. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go through a little quick information about EPI-Reviewer Web and managing your reviews, just as a little reminder. Then we're going to look at how to match items to the Microsoft Academic Graph database. Well, also what Microsoft Academic is to begin with. Then we're going to look at how to search the database for items to be able to import into a new review. Then how you can use it to bring your review up to date if you've already got a review that you've coded within EPI-Reviewer, how to use Microsoft Academic to be able to find other items, for example, items in bibliographies and items that cite the items in your review, and then how to keep your review up to date as a living review, for example, or how to bring it up to date if, for example, you did it a couple of years ago and you want to do an updated version of it now, how you could do that. And then I've got some links, and we'll have some time, hopefully, for questions towards the end. But as before, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Or if I'm going too quickly, then, of course, please ask me to slow down. The other caveat that I want to say before we begin is that a lot of what I'm sharing with you today about how to do this is purely based on my own experiences with using the tools for my own reviews. And so, you know, the way that I describe things may not necessarily be the way that our developers would describe them, or, you know, may not be the most technical. So, and there's always more than one way to do things. So this is just one way that I've learned how to do them. Okay, so EPI-Reviewer is evidence synthesis software that was created to support our work at the EPI Centre. As a reminder, it is web-based, so as long as you've got an internet connection, you'll be able to access it. It doesn't require you to download the software onto your device. It was developed for all types of reviews, so it has been designed for flexibility. And as we know, it helps by keeping the review process explicit and replicable, enables you to work with other people in your review, can help through priority screening, and also allows you to create evidence gap maps and to update your review through machine learning processes, which is what we're talking about today. Now, just a quick question, Sergio, have you got access to admit people or not this time?
I do, yes.
Oh, brilliant. All right, then I'll let you do that, please.
Sure.
Okay, so EPI-Reviewer Web can be accessed through this website that's on the screen now. It works with all modern browsers. For preference, I like to use Firefox, but it does also work with Safari, Chrome, Edge, and so on and so forth. It is great to be able to work on web-enabled devices like tablets in particular. I know that I've spoken before about using my iPad to be able to do things like screening really easily. And we do have another version of EPPI-Reviewer, which is EPPI-Reviewer 4. And I'm not talking about that version today. I am talking about EPPI-Reviewer Web. But if you found that you wanted to use EPPI-Reviewer 4 for some reason and then switch to EPPI-Reviewer Web, absolutely fine, because it uses the same underlying data. So you are able to use both features, although not at the same time. You can't be logged into two different versions or two different copies of EPPI-Reviewer at the same time, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is. I would like to mention, of course, that we are constantly updating the software. And so, for example, recently there was a major update which combined the frequencies and crosstabs tabs which were at the top into one lovely place called reports, which is you can see on the screen in the screenshot. And so those kinds of updates do happen regularly. And so there is always, if for whatever latest changes that we have, are always on that home screen, which you can see there at the bottom. Just as a reminder, in terms of managing your reviews, it actually happens in a different place from the software itself. So what's on the screen is our account manager, and that is located through the EPPI-Reviewer gateway. Unfortunately, for some reason, I don't have the link on the screen, which is annoying, but you can find it by going to EPPI-Reviewer and clicking on the Account Manager tab on the right-hand side. To be able to log in and manage your reviews or your user account, you just click on Login there. If you've forgotten your password or your username at any point, you can always click on here and reset that. If you are new to EPPI-Reviewer and you haven't got yourself an account yet, you can sign up for a free trial account. That gives you free access for a month if you haven't signed up already. And then if you decide that you'd like to continue using the software, you can just pay to extend your account. You don't have to, it doesn't change anything that you've done, any of the work that you've done using that trial account. We would simply then just extend it so that you've got access, full access to whatever you've been doing during that first month. Just as a reminder, you do need to activate your account once you've created a new one. And you can do that through either clicking on the link in the email that should be sent to you after you create your account, or you can click on the link here in the Account Manager page. Now, one little message. Before you're able to use the Microsoft Academic Graph features within EPPI-Reviewer, you do need to send us an email so that we can enable it for you. Our email address is on the screen. Really simple, quick, easy thing to do. And as soon as we click the button, you have access to it. So it doesn't take long once we receive your email. So Microsoft Academic Graph is a database that has approximately 250 million, although it's probably even more than that, open access bibliographic records of research articles across a whole range of different topics and areas. It is available for third-party use under a Creative Commons license, although there will be some changes coming very soon. It is updated at the moment every 7 to 10 days, and it does include links to full text resources where they're available, although it doesn't always, if it's not available, they're not always there. The really great thing about Microsoft Academic is that it searches not just those academic databases that institutions have access to, but it also searches other places as well, so more grey literature places that you wouldn't necessarily normally have access to. And that's why it's been found to have quite a lot of coverage. In terms of how it works with being able to update your review or keep your review up to date, the main aim of it is to maintain a surveillance of the literature to be able to do that. So Microsoft Academic Database itself, so new papers arrive roughly every 2 weeks, so as I said, every 7 to 10 days roughly, and the machine learning models learn the scope of your review based on your included studies. So the machine learning looks at your review, looks at the papers within your review, considers what new papers have been added to Microsoft Academic or what's available within Microsoft Academic database, and then new papers are added to reviews that have it set up when it's judged to be sufficiently close enough to what's in your review already, and then it suggests items or suggests studies that you might like to include, and then you have the ability to include those within your reviews. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail coming up. So once you've enabled MAG in your review, and again, to be able to use Microsoft Academic or MAG as we refer to it in short, you do need to send us an email for it to be able to happen. And when you do, can you please provide the review ID number or at least the name of your review so that we know which one we need to enable it for? Okay, so once you've logged into EPPI-Reviewer Web, of course, this is the review homepage. This is what it looks like. You will notice once MAG is enabled that this update review button magically appears. So this is how you would access it. Just click on that button there. Now, when you first use MAG for the first time in a review, it will say that in order to update the review in any way, either to bring it up to date or keep it up to date, that you first need to match the references in your review to their equivalent items in Microsoft Academic. And the reason this is there is because in order to run the matching algorithm, it needs to know which items are in your review, it needs to be matched to what's in Microsoft Academic. In order to do that, so in this example, we're talking about a review where you've already got some items in there. So to do that, you need to click on the Match Records button and then click on Run Matching Algorithm, which is here in the blue. So this is the example that you see on the screen here is one of my reviews that we did in 2018. And so I used this review to be able to demonstrate this particular webinar today. So we had 146 included studies that hadn't been matched yet, and 186 studies that were excluded in the review that haven't been matched yet. You will be prompted with the whether or not you want to do that, and you just need to click OK. This can take a little while. Now, when I say little while, as I said, there were, around 300 odd or just under 400 items within this particular review, and it only took, I guess it took about 5 minutes for it to do. So be patient. If you've got a lot more items than that, then naturally it will take a little bit longer to run through. And you can click on the little refresh icon to see whether or not it's updated. I always tend to close back, go out of it and do something else whilst I'm waiting. So once it's finished working its magic, the matched records will be listed alongside, so these ones here are all the matched included records that we have, any matched excluded records, so any items in my review that I listed already as an excluded item. And it gives you an aggregated number of all of the matched records in your review. It also shows you if there are any low confidence matched items. So say, for example, so the algorithm has decided that we think this is a match, but we're not really sure. It'll give it a reasonably low score. So say around, somewhere between 0.41 and 0.71, and that'll be indicated there. It'll also show you whether or not there were any items that could not be matched. Now, Microsoft Academic is pretty massive, but it doesn't, it can't index everything. So there will be a small proportion that won't be able to be matched. So these are the items that you're going to need to check manually. So in order to do that, you would need to click on the first blue hyperlinked number. What will happen then is it will go straight to the references tab, and it will list those 6 items, for example. And all you need to do is click on go on the first item. Then once you've gone into your item details page, you need to click on the Microsoft Academic tab. Now this tab isn't visible to anyone's review that hasn't had MAG enabled. So that'll be a new feature for you once it's enabled in your review. You need to check the item details at the top and compare it to the match that has been found within Microsoft Academic. So this is this here is the item that you're looking at trying to find. And here is the match that Microsoft Academic thinks, you know, maybe, but we're not really sure. And it's been given a score of 0.41, etc. So you need to have a look and see whether or not this is the item. Now, this obviously wasn't the item. This was an incorrect match. And so we need to look it up in the Microsoft Academic database. So you click on the toggle to say it's incorrect. And then you need to click on View in Microsoft Academic Browser. Now, what will happen is this particular item is the one that's going to come up. And we know that this isn't correct. So you're still going to need to manually search for the item. So you can click on View in Microsoft Academic, and that's going to bring up a new tab in your browser, which will be the Microsoft Academic page. Type in the name of the item that you're searching for in the top search bar. So I just copied and pasted this title of this particular item into Microsoft Academic. If you're lucky, you'll be able to locate it. Now, the reason that Microsoft Academic couldn't locate this one in particular is because it didn't have the full title. So you can see here it's Motivation Matters, then it's got the colon, and it's got a further title. And I suspect that's part of the reason that it didn't match successfully. Another reason that it might struggle is because if it's been indexed in another language, that can sometimes be an issue where an item has the title in English, but it's also got it in Spanish, for example. And I found that if I searched for the item in Spanish, it would come up. So it's always good to try, if there's different versions of the title, to try that. So once you've located it, if you have, what it will do is display up in the top address bar, there'll be a number, and this is the individual Microsoft Academic identification number for that particular item. All you do is copy that number and paste it into the section, the item details page for that particular item in EPPI-Reviewer in the Microsoft Academic tab, and click on Go. Double check that this is the correct one, and we can see that that it certainly is. It's from Computers and Human Behaviour. It's got the same page number, same authors, and that's correct. So then you click on the correct match toggle, circle, whatever you want to call it, and then that record receives a score of 1 because it's perfectly matched. And the closer to 1 that a score has, the more likely it is to be the correct match. And when you return to the update review screen in MAG, it shows that the number of low confidence matches that haven't been matched has reduced from 6 to 5 because you've gone and done that. So then you need to repeat that process for all of the other low and non-matched items that you had in MAG. Now, obviously, I didn't have a large number of items in this particular review to be able to do that for, and there are other ways of being able to manage this, but this is the way that I do it. Okay. You can also use Microsoft Academic to be able to search for items for a new review. So you can use it as any other database like Web of Science or EBSCOhost or any of the other databases as one of the sources, main sources for your review. So to do that within the Update Review panel, you would click on the Search and Browse button. There are a number of different ways that you can search for items within Microsoft Academic. So you can choose to search just in the title, just in the abstract, author names, topic, specific ID, so that like that ID we just found for that particular item. You could search for a journal, or you can also combine searches using the Boolean operators as well. Now, it's funny because some of the guidance that we have says that you can't use the phrasing quotations to combine the searches, but I did one last night and it worked perfectly fine. So I'm not sure whether it's updated or so that it does work now. But I tried it with intelligent tutoring system in quotation marks and got one particular number, something like 1800 studies. And then I searched for each individual word and separately as a separate search in the titles. And then I combined them using this a combination, selecting the operator and it came up with the same number, so 1800 odd studies. So it worked both ways. You can then choose to import the search results directly into your review. So this is fab because it means you don't have to go to the database separately from outside EPPI-Reviewer. You can do it all within EPPI-Reviewer and it will import it directly into your review. And so this is the import icon that you'll see, and you can do that if you wish. You can also rerun the search that you've done and filter it by date. So I actually did that because I completely forgot to put a date limit on it, which you can do here when you're doing a new search. And so I was able to click one of these searches and then filter it for all of the things after 2007, click on rerun search with date filter, and then it provided me with an updated search list, which is really great. So once you've come up with your search, and this is how it will look, so it tells you the date that you did the search, which version of MAG you searched in, gives you your search string and what it was that you searched, shows you the number, so it found 196 items that I might like to import. And I decided, yep, absolutely, those are things that I'd like to look at. And so you click on that import icon and confirm that you want to import it straight into your review. Now, what happens is all of those items, they are imported into your review as included items. So the number of included studies in your review will change on the review homepage. You can then find your imported items from MAG in the Sources tab on the review homepage. So if you click on the Sources tab, it will drop down and show you all of the different sources in your review. And here is the search that I did, shows the search string and it shows the number. It just makes it really easy to be able to then locate the items that you've imported. If you click on that blue name, it will then take you to a list of those items and just those items in that particular source in the References tab. So you can see here again, it shows which particular list I'm looking at, and I've got 196 items that I can then go through and screen. Yeah, okay, so the next step is if you're wanting to bring your review up to date or do some citation chasing. So within the MAG interface, again, we've gone back to clicking on the Update Review button on the review homepage. Click on the Bring Up to Date button here, and this will bring up this screen. You click on Add New Search, type in a description. So for example, if you were wanting to look for all of the items that Microsoft Academic has access to that have cited the studies that you've already got in your review, you could use this particular function to do that, and it's called citation chasing. So choose whether or not you want to include all the to search on all of the included items in your review, or whether you want it to just search for items that have a specific code. Now here you want to be a little bit careful because in my example, I had just imported that 196 new studies that it had found with my search intelligent tutoring systems, and I haven't actually screened them yet. So I really don't want MAG to search all of the included items because I'm not sure if they're all relevant. So instead, I choose to search just on the items that had already been screened in my previous iteration of my review and had been given an include code. Then you need to search, choose which search mode that you're going to search for. Now, where it says known items, this means that they are the items that are in your review already. So if you want to do some citation chasing, you would select papers that cite known items. You could also choose to search for all of the items in the bibliographies of the items in your review. But there is a little bit of just a quick point about that though. If you've got a date limitation on your review, you may want to just be a little bit mindful of that. And so if you choose to do that, you may want to set a date restriction. So in my original review, which was about, if you hadn't noticed, is about artificial intelligence. And we actually did our search from anything after 2007. And so initially when I was doing this, I didn't put that search on. But when I thought about it, I really didn't want Microsoft Academic to find items in the bibliographies that had existed before 2007. So I decided to restrict the date. So it was only items after 2007. So that's just something you need to be mindful of. And then just click on Add New Search. So this is what it looks like. It'll come up with the search that you've put in, the date that you've decided to do it, whether or not you've chosen to search based on all of the included studies in your review or just with a specific code, and that's what I did. And then it will say that it's waiting, and it will be, these buttons will be grayed out and it will have 0 whilst it's processing. Again, it does take a little bit of time, so don't get too frustrated. You can click on the refresh button, but I always like to just, close back and go and do something else whilst I'm waiting. Once the search has completed, it'll pop up here with the updated information. So instead of saying waiting, it will say not imported, and it will say that it's complete. So this particular search found 2,962 items that cite the items in my review, which is quite a large number. So if you decide that you want to import all of those into your review, you can just click on the import button. Or if you'd like to be a little bit more judicious about which items get imported into your review, you can click on the number that MAG found, this 2,962, and it will display all of the individual items that it found. In order to have a look for more information about each of these items, you just click on the name and it will pop up with the metadata information. And if you want to see the abstract or any other information about that item, you can click on the More Details button. If you've decided that it should definitely be imported into your review, then you can click on the black arrow. Click on the blue back arrow here, sorry. Click on this blue back arrow and you'll be taken back to this page, and then just click on the plus icon to add it to the list for items to be imported. So it doesn't import it automatically when you click on the plus icon. And that one of the reasons that is because then in case you've made a mistake, you can always click on it again to take it out of the list. But you can see here that I've clicked on 2 pluses, 2 items, and it's keeping track of all of those papers there. Once you've decided that you've been through it all and you want to import the items you've selected, you just click on Import Selected. And then you would go through that process for any of the other searches that you've conducted within MAG. So you can see here that I have done 4 different searches. This was my initial search for items that cite the papers in my review, but then I decided that I should really limit it to the ones after 2007, but actually that only cut it out by 2. So it didn't really save me much after all. I also wanted to look for items in the bibliographies and items that recommend recommendations. Sergio, are you able to say anything about the recommendation relationship between items for us?
Yes, well, this is a feature of the Microsoft Academic Graph database itself. It's called the graph because it's not just the database, it's also mapping the relationship between databases, and Microsoft have their own system to decide the similarity between items, and that shows up in the recommendations. So the recommendations are what Microsoft own developed system to track similarity between references suggest as very similar to your own include.
So in terms of topic, like title,
Yeah.
abstract, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But it kind of looks at all the information that is available there for the topic, the cited by, and the bibliography within each reference, and then makes their own machine learning mysterious decisions. We can't say exactly how it works. Nobody can.
Okay, well, yeah, you can see here that it found 4,171 in terms of the recommendations from MAG. So I'd assume then that some of these ones that were located as that cite and that are listed in the bibliography would be within this 4,000 probably, if it combines all of those together. Okay, now having said that, now, when you go to import the items into your review, duplicates are often flagged and not imported. So the system will recognise that items are already in your review. However, I have found a couple of times that it didn't do this. So just to be sure, I always run a duplicate check after I've imported any items from MAG, just to make sure that you're not about to, you know, go and do more work than you need to do. And so the Manage Duplicates button, just as a reminder, is on the review homepage next to the Update Review button. And if you need to, we do have a video on YouTube that you're able to access, just to remind yourself how to do that process. One of the great things that I love about Microsoft Academic is the ability to be able to keep reviews up to date as living reviews. Now, this is really fabulous in terms of our new tool, which is called EPPI Visualizer. This is a new web database tool, and I did talk about it briefly in the other webinars that I did in the last month. But basically, any of the changes that are made in your review are updated live in this web database. And if you've got it openly accessible to people, then that just means that you know, there's less effort in terms of making the information available to people. Because the changes that you make in EPPI Reviewer are then updated directly in your web database. Now, I do have a couple of living review examples. I'm not going to show you them now because I'm conscious of time, but the links are available in the slides, obviously, and I'll be sharing the slides after the presentation, and you're more than welcome to go and have a look. But I will just point out that this COVID-19 living map of evidence is now semi-automated using MAG to be able to update their database. And so once they've, and I'm about to tell you how to set up the MAG searches to be able to keep your reviews up to date. But you can see here that they've listed all the different versions of this particular database, and these are the different versions of MAG as they've come through. So every couple of weeks. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you keep your review up to date in terms of either constantly every fortnight as a living review, or how do you then update your review going forward? So in the MAG interface, click on Keep Up to Date, then click on Adding New Auto Update Subscription. Type in a description. So I couldn't think of anything more creative, so I just typed in new MAG items. And again, I chose to limit it to the items I'd already identified that are included. And then click on Add New Auto Update Subscription. So it will list itself here. Now, because I only created this particular one in that review last night, and MAG has just been updated, I had to use an example from a different review, so I do apologise. But every 2 weeks, the new search will display here under items found at each task execution. So it will show you which version of MAG the update has come from. It'll give you the date, and it'll also give you the number. Now, this particular review, I hadn't done a lot of that matching of items that I showed you right at the beginning of the webinar. And so mine keeps coming up with crazy numbers. Although this particular review is about teaching and learning in higher education during COVID-19. And so obviously there's a lot of new research that keeps coming out, but I don't think that I've managed to match enough items for the machine learning to have, how do you say it, to have really, you know, sort of refined what it is that I'm looking for. And so that's why I'm getting such big numbers. Now, if you, a good idea is to click on the Refine Import button to see which items have been imported, and to define what you'd like to import. You can also click on the blue number to see the items themselves. So this is what comes up. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this because unfortunately I'm not a huge whiz in terms of this particular part of the process. But I do know that in order to save time, you can specify. So I certainly don't want to be screening or, you know, looking at 42,000 different items. However, what the machine learning has done, what the algorithm has done, is it has given, how would you say this, like a score. Well, it's given it a score in terms of the likelihood of matching to the items in your review. So here at 0.99, these are the items most likely to be matching what it is you're looking for. And so I've chosen to import the top 2,000 items because this was just a touch under 2,000 for this 0.99, instead of looking at all of these ones, because I really know that these ones are probably not going to be anywhere near what I'm looking for my review. So I changed the import top to match those given this particular score and click on import. You can also choose to list the items just to double check that, you know, these are the things you're looking for. There are, you know, it's still likely that if you haven't gone through that matching all of the items in your review, that there might be a few that really aren't what you're looking for, but at least you know that it's going to be more than likely. Now, here is where I'm going to stop because there's a lot more things that you can do, but as yet I am still learning about how to do this. And I don't want to steer you up the garden path, but I've at least taken you to a point where you'd be able to import, keep your review up to date with the most closely matched items. And just as a point, the machine learning is fab, and it does give you an updated list, you know, every fortnight. However, if you're wanting to keep your review as a living review, you do still need to go ahead and screen those items and code them in order for them to be updated and included in your EPI Visualizer database or wherever it is, however it is you're displaying your studies. So that, yeah, so it helps find them, but you do still need to be mindful about how you're going to manage the process of then going through and screening and coding those studies that you've imported. There is a lot of further information available here on this slide. We do have information about the other machine learning capabilities in EPPI-Reviewer Web, for example, priority screening. If you haven't already signed up to EPPI-Reviewer, of course, please do so. I do also have some other information about using MAG that is already available on our website. We've got those recorded webinars that were there recently, and we've got other instructional videos for other features of EPPI-Reviewer. You can always contact me. I love hearing from people and helping guide you as best I can, or put you in the right direction for someone who can help. And just as a reminder, if you're contacting about EPPI-Reviewer itself, please do use our EPI support email address, because we have a fantastic team. And if you email me sometimes, especially if I'm on leave, I won't be able to get back to you as quickly perhaps as another team member can. So please do use EPI support email. Other than that, if you've got any specific questions, amazingly enough, I have left time this time for you to be able to ask questions about your own review or your own project. It doesn't even have to be about MAG, it could be about anything. And otherwise, if you don't have any questions, then thank you so much for joining us. And I'll say have a great day, have a great weekend.